Hello, Paul from Foil Drive, and today's video is all about the new tilt sensor, which is in the Fusion Gen 2.5. We want to go through how it works, how to turn it on and off, how to program it, and what is it for. So realistically, it's a safety feature. The feature is designed to automatically shut the motor down if the tilt sensor is turned on, and the Foil Drive unit and or your board go out of range of whatever tilt you've programmed. So the unit comes as standard, turned on in the remote and turned on in the Fusion unit. It's activated and it's at 30%. 30% pitch forward, 30% pitch back, 30% roll right and left. So it's 30% all round. So what I'm going to go through first of all is probably something that people initially have a problem with, is unlocking the unit and making sure your unit runs. If all these safety features are on from standard, for safety reasons, it may trip you up if you haven't read the manual as to why the thing won't run. So I suspect this video will get watched quite a few times in the coming weeks and months since launch of Fusion. So I'm going to simulate this from the start. I've got my controller, I'm going to turn it on. I've already plugged my battery in. It doesn't matter if I turn the controller on, then plug the battery in, makes no difference. So at the moment, my controller is saying I'm connected. I've got 91% battery, but the screen says it is locked. To unlock the remote for the first use, if throttle lock is on, you have to press and hold the B button down for a few seconds. I'll do that now. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that would have normally have unlocked it. You notice that the lock symbol is still there. The reason that is saying it's still on lock is because technically my Fusion sitting nicely on a table here, if that was on a board, the board is now upside down. And we don't want the board to be able to run when it's upside down if we're trying to make use of the tilt sensor. So what I'm going to do now, put the controller on the table, and I'm going to grab this unit, and you watch the tilt sensor lock. When it comes to level, it's going to unlock itself. Now it says it's at 0%. So if I was to then tilt the unit forward, eventually it's going to come back up with lock because it's gone past its degree of tilt. Come back into range, goes back to 0, go backwards, bing, locks. And same for roll, same thing. So that feature is doing its job. Again, when the unit is upside down, waiting for you to go out in the water, it's going to say it's locked. If you ever want to turn the feature off, you can go into the menus, scroll down to menu 7, tilt sensor, scroll to off, press B, press the negative twice, and now the tilt sensor is off. And you'll notice that the throttle setting is now got lock is not there, and I press the button, the motor runs. So that is a little trick that you might find initially. It's like, why my unit's not working? You've got to unlock it, and then you've got to get it ready to go the right way. So the way I set my Foil Drive up is I put it all together, I get the board, I turn the board the right way up, and I tilt it back so it's sitting on its front foil and tail. The board is level. I unlock the unit. The IMU is already happy because it's flat and level, and then I can test the throttle when it's ready to go. Okay, so we're going to simulate that again, but we're going to turn the tilt sensor back on, and I'm going to get someone to actually deliberately run the motor, and I'm going to tilt the Fusion unit to simulate and show you just how the motor does cut off instantly. This is obviously not something we recommend people do, but for demonstration purposes, we want to illustrate just how that works. So I'll turn the tilt sensor back on. It's now on. Select that. Back out. Now you notice the lock's gone back onto the screen. I'll give you the instruction to turn the motor on. And I want you to leave your finger on the throttle. So try and turn it on now. Doesn't work. Okay. All right. So try and turn the motor on. Tilt sensor. Turns off. Now, I want you to start the motor again this time. And I want you to keep the throttle on. So she's keeping the throttle pressed, and I'm going to go back to center. Nothing happens. The only way the motor will start is if you release your finger off the throttle. It goes back to 0. Now you can start the motor again. That's it. So the tilt sensor is designed to turn the motor off automatically if you go out of tilt or roll range that you've chosen. It's easier to turn the tilt sensor on and off by just using the remote. Menu 7, turn it on, turn it off. The Foil Drive app does allow you to program the tilt sensor to individual pitch and roll values. You can turn the tilt sensor on and off from the app as well. To be honest, it's just as easy to use the remote. But the reason why you might want to program the tilt sensor to a specific range in the app is you might want to have a very tight roll value when people are learning, and a slightly less restrictive pitch value as they're learning to get going. So I tune it for different things. For myself, I have a reasonably wide angle of attack, sort of like 40 degrees pitch and roll, because sometimes I might be catching a steep wave and I don't want the motor to cut off. And I still want to be able to have the motor in a really aggressive turn if I'm e-foiling. For someone who's learning, you might turn the roll down to say, let's say 20 degrees. As soon as they're past this sort of like level of tilt, the motor's going to shut off, which is a good thing, because a person at 20 degrees when they're learning is probably falling off, or in the midst of the process of falling off anyway. For pitch, I find about 25 to 30 is about as low as I go before it becomes a little bit inconvenient that it's always cutting off. But again, you can play with that to what you think is appropriate for the user and how you want to set it up. So hopefully that helps. It's pretty straightforward once you've got your head around it. It's a safety feature. It can be turned on, it can be turned off. The choice is yours. Thanks for listening.